The bootleg. For as long as there have been name brands, there have been knockoffs. The bootleg toy is a cheap, non-copyright violating version of an established brand. For reference, let's look at these Special Man and Space Boy figures. These replicas are almost rip-offs, but are famous for looking kind of off, to the point where it's almost ironically endearing. This uncanniness has become a staple of the bootleg, and developed an almost cultish community of Frankenstein-type homemade toys. Iconoclast Bart Collection links the iconic Simpsons son with properties as fringe as 2000s rapper MF Doom. Or what about this? Spanky Stokes' combination of Adventure Time Finn with the 80s iconic hero, He-Man. To discuss the growing culture, my crew and I headed to Chinatown to interview New York's very own bootleg king. This is Ultrawave. Welcome to Street Rat. Today we're sitting down with the Sucklord. Sucklord is a New York-based pop-up artist, owner of the brand Stuckadelic, pioneer of the bootleg toy movement, and above all, a self-proclaimed supervillain. Complete with a costume, a lair known as the Suck Hall, a business empire, and an army of soldiers, albeit only a few inches tall. We sat down with the Sucklord to get a better idea of what he was doing in his Chinatown apartment. Do you consider yourself an artist?
No. Others might, but I think it's a little presumptuous to declare yourself an artist. I mean, I would call myself an artist just because it's easier to say that than to attempt this long-winded explanation that you're probably going to wind up editing out. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily defined as art. I'll leave it to the professional critics and the curators and the gallerists and the museum people to decide if it's art, and if it's up to them, it's not art, and that's fine. I mean, I was told on national television by a famous art critic, Jerry Saltz, that I was making non-art, so I'll take that.
He showed us his collection of his proudest work, pieces that seem to be the marriage of the political and the sensual.
I'm gonna stand a little away from that. This is the Sucklord'S 66, one of the original pieces. This is from 2004, and I made 48 of them, and I have 2 left. The rest of them, most of the other ones are accounted for. I think there's a few floating around in the wild, but I sold this for 20 bucks when it first came out. And it took me about a year to get rid of all of them, and the last one, the highest this has ever sold for was like $1,100.
Holy shit.
Can you fucking believe that? And then this I wrote, "You're an asshole for buying this" on the back. This is the Gay Empire figure. This is actually the 10th anniversary Homo Trooper. And then these are all the various handmade ones. Here's all the gay ones. Now these ones are about gay sex because there's a sex act being depicted here.
Yes.
You know, I like doing this stuff because they're shocking and provocative and just like has no business being an action figure, so that's why it has to be.
Like the Four Loko, like also has no
it's stupid, you know. But that amuses me, you know. But also these, you know, I try to do political stuff too. Like I did a whole Captain America, make Captain America great again. You know, the Mexican one sold out, but there's like this sort of ISIS version of Captain America, you know, with all these sort of like every single instance of like an American person like daring to like be any way affiliated with Islam. You know, you have Obama when he went to Africa, and then Mia Khalifa, the porn star who's Lebanese, and I did a Native American Captain America. This was like sort of a Standing Rock sort of reaction, and then on the back is this collage where you have all these great, you know, historical Native American figures and all this terrible pop culture references like Apache Chief and Tonto and Spirit, because the idea being like the offenses against Native Americans are so egregious that even the stereotypical characters showed up to protest it. These are actually little miniature versions based on the old Keshi muscle things. And these are made in China, and these are great because I can sell those for $2 a piece. And you know, it's in case you can't afford the expensive shit, but you still want to give me your money. Now over here on the wall is the so-called artwork, which is basically the same shit with a frame around it. And just somehow, you know, after bitterly attending Art Basel for so many years and, you know, being angry because I'm not included, I realized that it has to hang on the wall for it to be art. Now it's not really art yet because art is big. Like if it's small, it's not art, but if it's really, really big, then it is art. So I have made a couple of these things that are like in this size, but you know, and I sell those for like 10 times as much, but don't have any right now because I sold them all. But yeah, it's like, yeah, the bigger it is, the more inherent value it has. At least as a commodity, it does.
Sucklord describes his brand in 4 key points.
Sex, drugs, Star Wars, hip-hop.
These principles seem almost ever present in his work. Scrapping figures and remixing are tenets of the hip-hop sample, and that's not surprising when he says he comes from a hip-hop background. And it's interesting, in many ways rebellious to see these Star Wars bits and bobs repurposed to have completely different meanings. Like any supervillain, Sucklord characterizes his career as one based on revenge.
Because I created this business out of revenge. You know, because I wanted to make toys.
Yeah.
And I wanted to like make toys with a real toy company, you know, and I went to everybody from fucking Hasbro to Kid Robot on down, you know, trying to get my little fucking Sculpey creatures made into fucking plastic toys manufactured in China and sold and distributed by some legitimate outlet, and nobody wanted to do that. So I was like, well, fuck you, I'm gonna do it myself, and I created the first Sucklord figure, the Sucklord 66, which was deliberately terrible, or just it was terrible because I had no other means to make. I couldn't make anything good because I didn't have the means to do it. So I made something the best I could, and it was objectively terrible. So I said, "This is it. Fuck you."
So where does like the Boba Fett helmet come into play?
Well, I mean, Boba Fett, bounty hunter from The Empire Strikes Back and beyond. Boba Fett, when he first came out, you know, I was just admired his stance. You know, he's armored. He's in a mask. And for Halloween, like 1980, when Boba Fett first came on, I went dressed up as Boba Fett, and it was the first time I ever felt any kind of power. I mean, obviously, it was just a little kid in a costume, but having the mask on, and I customized it with all this armor, and I had the gun, and I would go to the Halloween parade, and I would throw smoke bombs, and then walk through the cloud of smoke, and it was the first time I ever tasted any sort of like power within my body, you know. And then as I got older, I revisited that, you know, and I needed a character to represent my company. I went back to that, and again, I needed something to sort of protect myself.
Like power and like
yeah,
like anonymously.
Yeah, an anonymous projection of power, you know, and just when you're in the mask, it creates mystery, and it also gives you, you know, it hides all your weaknesses and your flaws, and people see what you want them to see. And I just adopted that as a practice, you know. Now you can see my face. You're welcome. But back in the day, when I used to go rep the shit, before I was making toys, I was making bootleg records. I had this record called Star Wars Breakbeats, which is all these unlicensed Star Wars remixes, you know, with hip-hop beats mixed with shit from the movies and stuff like that. And I would go out, and, you know, with the boombox and the mask, you know, had graffiti, and the gold chain was like a hip-hop Boba Fett. Because I couldn't just go out as this and represent this, it had to be exciting. So I revisited that, and it served me again. So when I moved into toys, I again adopted the mask, you know, to project what I wanted to project onto people.
So how does the supervillain create these pieces? He took us through the process step by step.
Necromancer figure, which is really just a ripoff of Sauron from Lord of the Rings, and the body is cannibalized from a Burger King Happy Meal of Gandalf from when the Lord of the Rings movies came out in 2000. The head, this hood, is from the Emperor from the Star Wars line from 1983, I think that figure came out. And then, you know, they're put together in a sculpture, like and then I'll make a mold of the sculpture, and then you get this solid piece at the end. It's still like a frontier in a way. There's always something more that can be done, and there's like everything from the big companies to the guy in his basement, you know, are all trying to push the medium forward. I mean, 'cause at the end of the day, and this might sound a little corny, but like, you know, I compare action figures to like the Venus of Willendorf or something like that. I mean, human beings, since the day they grew a fucking opposable thumb, have been making small representations of themselves as a means to try to understand themselves. So, and I think that sort of basic human instinct continues on in like the modern era with toys. It intercedes with capitalism and stuff like that, but, you know, it's I think there's something uniquely human about making a figurative representation of a person, and it's as infinite as we are, and, you know, it's a fun world to play.